Three spine-chilling rainy night drive horrors, terrifying secrets revealed for the lonely traveler. The rain poured down like a relentless hammer against Sarah's windshield as she trudged through yet another grueling shift at the local testing lab. The darkness of suburbia wrapped around her reliable sedan, its worn frame a testament to years of service. As she navigated the familiar streets, every raindrop seemed to whisper a warning, transforming her late-night drive into an ominous journey. Each house stood like a silent sentinel, its windows darkened against the tempest, emphasizing her isolation. Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down her spine. A car was behind her, headlights flickering ominously through the downpour. It was a vehicle she recognized too well, a black sedan belonging to Jake, the neighbor with the smiling face and seemingly kind demeanor. But tonight, that facade felt like a mask hiding something dark and malevolent. The anxiety slithered into her stomach, wrapping tight like a vice. As she clenched the steering wheel, her phone buzzed violently against the dashboard, jarring her thoughts. "I see you, Sarah. You should have stayed at work." Terror washed over her. Confusion waged war with dread. She glanced back, and her heart dropped. There he was, Jake, his face eerily illuminated by headlights in rain. The friendly neighbor turned predator in an instant, his grin now a chilling specter. Her mind raced through memories, the last neighborhood barbecue, laughter and smiles muffling underlying truths, secrets held tightly in the folds of suburbia, now soaking in rain and regret. Desperate, Sarah reached for her phone, fingers trembling, but when she called the police, the calm voice on the other line dismissed her fears as simple paranoia. Just a late-night driver, they said, fogging the air with indifference. The safety she thought was built into the neighborhood disintegrated like a shadow at dawn. Panic surged within her. She floored the gas pedal, fleeing through the rain-soaked streets, heart pounding in her chest like a war drum. Safety seemed a distant memory as the headlights behind her morphed into monstrous shadows crawling toward her through the storm. The town she once trusted twisted into a labyrinth of horror with every mile, the familiar roads morphing into paths of dread. The rain continued its drumming, matching the frantic beat of her heart, fueling the raw, primal urge to protect her daughter, Lily. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she approached the outskirts of town, the street lamps flickered like ghostly apparitions in the dense fog, offering just enough light to amplify her dread. The chase was relentless, each turn dragging her deeper into a nightmarish reality she never anticipated. Fear clutched her throat as a new message vibrated her phone, the words sending an icy chill down her spine. "You won't see your daughter again." Instinct screamed for her to go back, yet the only path in front of her shimmered with uncertainty and danger. Adrenaline coursing through her veins, she veered into the darkness, feeling a hollow weight settling in her stomach. The rain blurred her vision, and as terror hung like a fog around her, she knew her world would never be the same. The question loomed heavy in the storm. Would she escape the secrets buried beneath the calm surfaces of her suburban life, or would they consume her and her daughter whole? She turned sharply, tires skidding against the slick pavement. The black sedan followed with a terrifying precision, like a predator zeroing in on its prey. The frantic wipers struggled to clear the view, but the rain seemed determined to shroud her escape in chaos. With every drop, dread coiled tighter around her heart. "Think, Sarah, focus," she muttered under her breath. Her mind raced with thoughts of Lily, the little girl at home, blissfully unaware of the lurking danger. The thought of never seeing her again ignited a primal ferocity within Sarah. Another message chimed in, the screen lighting the dark car like a warning beacon. "You think you can outrun me?" The words felt like a taunt, chilling her to the bone. How long had Jake been watching her? What did he know? She made a frantic choice, veering toward an abandoned gas station ahead. The neon sign flickered erratically, casting ghostly shadows across the desolate lot. This was no refuge, but it was a chance to devise a plan. She flipped the car into a parking space, heart racing as she cut the engine. The ominous sounds of the engine fading gave way to the heavy rhythm of the rain and her own labored breaths. The headlight beams of Jake's car pierced through the darkness, illuminating the lot before coming to a standstill. Each second stretched like an eternity as Sarah crouched low, praying he wouldn't see her. The world felt painfully still, save for the relentless rainstorm. She peeked through the window, every heartbeat pounding in her ears. The black sedan's door swung open, and Jake emerged, his face a mask of calm determination, the previously friendly demeanor replaced with something far more sinister. "Sarah, I know you're in there," he called out, voice smooth and even, utterly chilling. "You shouldn't be scared. Just come out. We can talk." Fingers shaking, Sarah could only grip the wheel tighter.
She thought of the closet full of toys back home, the laughter that filled the rooms. Could she really trust this man who'd shared meals with her family? The wholesome memories began to warp, transforming into nightmarish imagery of deceit and betrayal. He walked closer, the water pooling around his feet as he approached, and Sarah knew she had to act. Gripping the phone tightly, she considered her options. Until now, she had no one to turn to, but as the rain pounded against the roof, one terrifying thought flickered in her mind. What if she couldn't escape? What if this was it? The message of despair clung to her, but desperation fostered a spark of hope. She would fight for Lily. She would emerge from this nightmare, alive and ready to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. With a deep breath, she fumbled for the door handle. But just then, a shrill scream echoed from the darkness beyond her, followed by the unmistakable sound of a child's laughter, innocent and chilling. Panic gripped her as she realized it wasn't Lily's laughter. It was an echo of something far worse hiding beneath the surface. The shadows shifted, and something moved quietly behind her, a presence far more unsettling than Jake. Heart hammering in her chest, she turned slowly, preparing for what could be her final moment. "Who's there?" she gasped, dread curling around her words. The laughter echoed again, mingling disturbingly with the rain. The truth of her suburban life was beginning to unravel, and she was standing at the edge of understanding something that could shatter her world. Would this revelation lead to her salvation or her doom? In the tantalizing silence that followed, she braced herself for the dark secrets that were finally clawing their way into the open. The stillness broke like shattering glass. Sarah forced herself to breathe, though every intake felt like rasping on jagged edges. The laughter faded, but the dread hung around her like dense fog. She could feel something, someone closing in, shadows twisting where they shouldn't. "Get out!" The whisper came, soft yet heavy, crawling right up her spine. There was no mistaking it. It wasn't Jake's voice. It sounded younger, colder, less human. She shuddered, frozen on the seat, scanning the rearview mirror, searching the gloom. Nothing but rain-slicked asphalt. The pounding of her heart drowned out the rain, each beat vicious in her ears. She couldn't stay here. Clenching her fists, she risked a glance through the window once more. Jake had wandered to the front of her car, casting a long shadow across the hood, his expression unreadable. He had completely forgotten about her now, distracted by something else, a movement at the periphery of the lot. It drew his gaze. Not willing to waste another second, Sarah pushed the door open with trembling hands. It creaked ominously as she inched out, her heart racing, reverberating in her throat. Every instinct screamed to run, to flee back into the darkness.
Yet in that very moment, she caught a glimpse of what had turned Jake's attention. A figure stood at the edge of the gas station's abandoned canopy, half hidden in shadows. Small, childlike, the silhouette swayed lazily, head cocked at an unnatural angle. It wasn't Lily. "Mommy," the figure croaked, voice like nails on wood. She recoiled, a scream clawing up her throat. "What do you want?" she shouted, the sound swallowed by the unforgiving downpour. The figure tilted its head, and the darkness seemed to gather around it, thick and impenetrable. And unholy fear washed over her, urging her to flee, but her legs felt like they were tacked to the cement. The laughter returned, mischievous and haunting, echoing around her, pulling her deeper into a horror she could barely comprehend. She jerked her head towards Jake. He remained oblivious, entranced by the shadow. What horror had she stumbled into? "Sarah, come play," the figure beckoned, arms outstretched, as if inviting her to a game she did not want to join. Panic fluttered again in her chest, and she stepped back, the wet ground slick beneath her shoes. Jake finally turned, face dropping into an expression of icy fury as he shifted his focus on her. "Don't listen to it," he ordered, the calmness of his voice now twisted into a snarl. In that instant, Sarah felt a current of dread shift. "What is it, Jake? What's happening?" He took a step toward her, eyes narrowing. "Just a trick. It's not real, Sarah. Just stay with me." But as Sarah's gaze slid back to the figure, it shifted, morphing into a grotesque imitation of a child, features melting together, flesh dripping like wax, eyes wide and empty, an invitation laced with malice. The rain fell heavier, drowning out sound, amplifying the creeping terror curling around her. Torn between the man she once trusted and the nightmare unraveling before her, she felt lost in a world gone dim. A voice lured her in psychological chains, while another warned her to escape. Suddenly, Jake lunged forward, noise erupting as the darkness surrounded him, thickening into tendrils that whispered secrets of eldritch nightmares. "Get back here!" he yelled, his hand grasping desperately for her. She could run, she realized. She could run and she could fight. Heart pounding, she turned her back on the shadow and sprinted towards the flickering neon sign, knowing she had to face the terror ahead to save herself and Lily. As she reached the corner of the building, a piercing laugh sliced through the air. The spectral child's voice echoed behind her. "You can't hide forever." Sarah spun at the last moment, breath hitching. "What do you want from me?" Silence. Just as she thought the voice was gone, it slithered back from the shadows. "You're not free yet." The words wrapped around her, sealing her fate. Would the horrors of her past come bubbling to the surface, or could she finally escape them?
Her nerves coiled tightly as she prepared for a relentless chase into the night. The chase neither of them had fully understood was beginning. What awaited her on this unholy road?
There was no turning back now, and no more shadows would hide the truth. The world around Sarah blurred as she ran, each step a desperate plea for safety. The rain slapped against her face like little stinging hands trying to pull her back into the darkness. Her heart raced in sync with the pounding of her feet on the pavement, urging her forward, far away from that horrific childlike figure and Jake, who seemed to unravel before her eyes. The glow of the neon sign flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls of the parking lot. It felt like a lifeline, yet also like a cruel joke. She edged closer, praying there was shelter, someone helpful, but the weight of the air pressed against her, thickening with every frantic breath. "Sarah, come back!" Jake's voice echoed from behind her, raw with desperation. But there was something twisted in his tone, something that warned her, urged her to ignore him completely. Suddenly, the initial panic morphed into adrenaline-fueled instinct. She was alone, and despite Jake's presence, she had never felt more isolated. Around the corner, the flickering lights beckoned like a mirage, but mixed with the tantalizing allure was an unshakable sense of dread. The last few steps felt like running through molasses. Sarah rounded the building, praying to find safety, only to discover a rusting vending machine and a barred restroom door. The laughter returned, taunting, wild, winding through the air. "You can't escape. We're all around you." "Shut up!" she shouted, her voice cracking with fear. God, she needed to get out of here. A sudden crash made her gasp. The sound splintered the silence, and she whipped around. The figure was moving now, weaving in and out of the shadows, gaining momentum like the rain swelling into a torrential downpour. The grotesque form haunted her movements, its limbs bending in ways they shouldn't. "Mommy, play with me," it crooned again. The words dripped with a sweetness that turned rancid in the night. As she sprinted toward the gas station's entrance, desperation clawed at her throat. She pushed on the glass door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged through her. With a sudden burst of strength, she slammed her shoulder against it. The door rattled, but the frame held steady, mockingly immovable. She could hear it now, the breathing, ragged and excited from what lurked behind her. "Sarah, help me!" Jake rasped, the wretchedness in his plea sinking its fangs deeper into her soul. She turned, catching sight of him. His eyes were filled with something she couldn't place. Was it pain? "Stay away from me!" she yelled, guilt choking her. But she couldn't let herself fall for it. There was a beast hiding behind the man she thought she knew, lurking under layers of fear and desire.
The figure drew closer, its head tilting and mouth stretching impossibly wide. "Come play forever." With every ounce of will she had, Sarah charged back into the rain. The neon lights blurred behind her, shadows twisted like fingers grasping at her, the child's laughter cutting through the darkness. She had to escape. She had to find Lily. As she took a sharp turn, her heart faltered. Ahead lay an old, crumbling road, dark and nearly forgotten. It beckoned with promises and unseen horrors. The path twisted into the heart of the forest, each tree a shadowy sentinel, towering and ominous, as if it were guarding the deep secrets buried within. Would she find Lily, or would the shadows consume her, body and soul? Her breath quickened, pumping adrenaline through her veins as she plunged into the darkness, knowing she could not turn back. And in that moment, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, fingers trembling. But as she looked at the screen, a new voice crackled through, chilling her to the bone. "You shouldn't have run, Sarah." The laughter returned, echoing through the trees, melding with the storm's fury. What awaited her with every terrifying step deeper into the dark? The trees loomed overhead, their branches twisted like clawing fingers against the dim light of her phone. Sarah's heart raced as each step settled deeper into the wet, uneven earth. The laughter lingered, weaving around her like smoke, clouding her thoughts and slowing her mind. "Lily, where are you?" she whispered, desperation clawing at her throat. Shadows shifted, deep and dark under the canopy, and she felt eyes, unseen, studying her. She could hear the rain, a steady pitter-patter, masking the sounds of whatever pursued her. She pressed on, the fear wrapping around her like a vice, squeezing her resolve. The road behind her, where Jake had stood, felt distant, almost a dream. She remembered his eyes, hollow and unrecognizable, as if he'd lost a part of himself to whatever darkness had taken hold. Suddenly, a flicker in the distance caught her attention. Was it a light, or just a trick of her imagination? With no other choice, she veered towards it, slipping through mud that threatened to claim her boots. "Stay with me," the voice echoed behind her again, each word laced with malice. She stumbled, but pressed forward, fighting the urge to turn around, to face whatever lurked behind her. The laughter intensified, swirling and dancing in the air, mocking her efforts. She burst from the tree line into a clearing. A decrepit house stood crookedly before her, half covered in vines. Its windows were like dark eyes gazing down at her in silence, daring her to approach. "No, no, no," she muttered, heart pounding louder than ever. But something compelled her. She couldn't ignore this place. What if Lily was inside? A moment of hesitation washed over her, and chilling dread washed across her skin like ice. The door hung ajar. Splintered wood groaned as it swayed gently in the wind, as if inviting her in. Taking a deep breath that tasted of wet earth and fear, she moved towards it. "Sarah!" A voice broke through the murmurs of the forest, and her heart plunged into her stomach. It was Lily. "Lily!" she called out, driven by the instinct to protect. Her voice echoed against the cracked walls of the house as she stepped inside. Darkness enveloped her, swallowing every bit of light. The air was thick and musty, carrying the scent of decay. "Lily, can you hear me?" The floors creaked beneath her feet, shifting unexpectedly. Shadows danced along the walls, and she hesitated, feeling exposed. With every heartbeat, the air felt more electric, more alive. "Come play," a distorted voice slithered through the silence. Cold shivers cascaded down her spine. "Stop it! Just show yourself!" she shouted, every word strained with fear. A figure loomed at the far end of the room, barely visible in the darkness. A child, no taller than a grown man's knee, stood with tears glistening on its cheeks, mouth stretched into an unnaturally wide grin. "Mommy," it whispered, the word dripping like venom from its lips. "Lily?" Sarah stepped closer, panic clawing at her chest. But the child erupted in laughter, and in that instant, all the warmth she had known seemed to fade. No longer was it Lily, but something else, something far worse. "Come play with us," it beckoned, a chorus of voices joining in a sinister harmony. Panic spurred her to turn back, to escape the dreadful visage creeping towards her. "Help! Help!" she screamed, but the sound stifled in the thick air. The door slammed shut behind her. The laughter grew louder, reverberating through the house like a haunting melody intended to break her. She was trapped, ensnared in a dream twisted by nightmares. "Let her go!" came a voice, startlingly familiar, breaking through the cacophony. And just then, Jake materialized in the doorway, bathed in darkness. "Jake?" she gasped, heart soaring with a flicker of hope. But as he stepped closer, an unsettling change washed over her. He smiled, yet the chill that crept down her spine told her all she needed to know. "Do you really think you can save her?" The shadows surged, and before she could react, they swallowed her whole. What horrors awaited her now? The pit of despair loomed deeper. Sarah was engulfed in darkness. The laughter faded, replaced by an oppressive silence, thick enough to choke on. She stood frozen, her heart pounding in her ears, breath quickening with every thud of her pulse. The shadows twisted around her, coiling like snakes, waiting. "Lily!" she whispered, her voice trembling, barely a breath in that suffocating darkness. Suddenly, a flicker of light danced in the periphery of her vision. It was weak, yet beckoning. Searching frantically, she turned her gaze towards it, the flicker growing brighter. Maybe there was hope, an exit.
She didn't know how much longer she could hold on to her sanity. With every hesitant step, the warmth of that glimmer felt more like a trick, pulling her deeper into some unseen trap. The shadows seemed to shift restlessly, whispering taunts and disjointed syllables. She squeezed her eyes shut, wishing the world away, but the voices grew louder, twisting into mocking chants. "Come play, come play." She snapped her eyes open, forcing herself to move forward. Her legs felt heavy, as if the very ground was trying to pull her down. She stumbled, catching herself against the wall, cold and damp, sending a wave of horror coursing through her. "Sarah," the child's voice echoed, bittersweet and haunting. That sound, it chilled her bones. It pulled at something deep inside her, the ache of longing mixed with fear. "I'm here," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. A figure erupted from the far corner, moving rapid, darting just beyond her reach. "Come play," it sang, and suddenly there was not just one voice but many, harmonizing, drowning her thoughts. The laughter swelled again, echoing off the walls, rising like a tide. "Stop! Stop it!" she screamed, but the words felt weak, lost in that room filled with laughter and shadows. Ignoring the encroaching darkness, she turned, racing blindly toward the light. Her hands brushed against the rough edges of the wall, the floor uneven beneath her feet. She dared not look back, not even for a second. The light flickered again, brightening just ahead. A door, a wooden frame splintered and worn, calling to her, promising safety, a way out. She lunged forward just as the floor beneath her warped into a hollow creak, and panic surged anew. The door slammed shut, locking whatever horrors lurked behind her. But her heart leapt when she felt the cold brass handle slick under her palm. She pushed down and pulled. It budged only slightly, the air trapped behind the door sizzling like something alive. "No, no, no!" she yelled, twisting the handle wildly. Then she heard it, a soft, almost gentle voice in the shadows. "We can all be together again, Sarah." The weight of its words sank into her, squeezing her heart. She recognized that voice, a reminder of something long buried. "Jake!" she whispered, tears welling, blurring the flickering light. "What have you become?" "I'm just waiting for you," he cooed, the warmth of his tone creeping through the layers of her fear like ice water down her back. With a shuddering breath, she pushed against the door harder, straining against it with all her strength. The grains of wood felt rough against her palms. She could feel it then, something stirring behind her, dark shapes shifting closer. The laughter had returned, heavier now, flooding the air like deadly smoke, closing in around her. She screamed, desperation flooding her voice. "Let me out! Let me out!" Just as she felt the door give slightly, the laughter spiraled into a cacophony of rage. Shadows reached for her in a wave, latching onto her, pulling her back, away from freedom, away from everything. With one final heave, she shattered through, bursting open into blinding light.
But what lay beyond was a reflection on her worst fears, illuminating an unexpected truth. Standing amidst that light, she found not salvation, but a darkness she couldn't fathom. Laughter echoed again, the chorus now relentless, an unending nightmare. Her eyes widened in horror as she realized she hadn't escaped at all. She had wandered where spirits danced in shadow, where the line blurred thin, where hope decayed. Now what would she choose? In that moment hung a question that may seal her fate forever. The light engulfed her, blinding and raw, exposing the twisted remnants of the place she had entered. Shadows writhed at the edges, clawing at her, eager to drag her back to the abyss. She instinctively stepped back, but the sudden movement sent her crashing into something solid, a wall that thrummed with an unnatural energy. "Jake!" she called, her voice shaking, echoing against the damp concrete. But already the warmth of his voice faded, replaced by the cacophony of laughter that swirled and danced around her. Panic surged through her veins. The figures materialized, small, dark forms darting between the flickers of light. The child's laughter morphed into shrill screams, haunting and sharp. "Sarah, come play with us!" they taunted, their voices intertwining like a dissonant symphony, wrapping her in a cloak of dread. She took a deep breath, focusing through her fear. Maybe if she could navigate this nightmare, she could find Lily, or at least escape this hell. "Where are you?" she shouted over the chaos, pain clawing at her heart. "Please, where's Lily?" With each word, the laughter faltered, a momentary hush before the shadows pressed closer, encroaching upon her like a hungry beast. "Leave her!" a child's voice hissed from the darkness, a flicker of bitterness slicing through the madness. Sarah's heart raced. "I'm trying to help her. We can all leave." "Help?" The shadows twisted with cruel delight. "You think you can help anyone when you brought her here?" A chorus of mocking giggles erupted around her. They were right. The memories flooded her mind. Her search for answers had led her to this treacherous world, reaping the souls of the innocent for their own games. The laughter surged once more, drowning her thoughts. She stumbled backward, desperate for an escape route. Behind her, the blinding light faded. The door vanished like a mirage, leaving her with only darkness ahead. "What have I done?" she muttered, the weight of her choices crashing over her. She felt every ounce of guilt stabbing at her, twisting her stomach into knots. The laughter sharpened, echoing off the walls, resonating with her despair. As she turned to the ominous shadows, a flash of brilliant white illuminated the space, a beacon slicing through the dark.
It pulsed like a heartbeat, promising hope. Sarah squared her shoulders. If she was to face whatever lay ahead, she needed to be strong. The shadows shrieked, flaring around her with fury. She lunged toward the light, her feet pounding the ground. Instinctively, she knew the dark forms would not let her go easily. They surged forward, reaching with clawed hands, desperate to reclaim her. The air thickened with their howls, wrapping around her like chains, dragging her back. But she felt a fire igniting within her. "Get away from me!" she screamed, shrouded in newfound resolve. She pushed through the darkness, the light growing nearer, brighter. In a blur, she broke through the shadows, flinging herself into the warmth of the light. Everything fell silent. The laughter evaporated, replaced by a heavy stillness that pressed against her. But just as she prepared to take a breath of relief, the light folded around her, transforming into swirling colors and warm fabric. She blinked rapidly, disoriented, realizing she was in a vast expanse, rows of children, faces void of recognition, eyes searching with longing. "Mama?" a soft voice murmured from the throng, and Sarah's heart sank. It was Lily, her daughter, standing timidly among the shadows of the lost. Without warning, the colors drained from the scene. Darkness loomed again, swallowing the faint outline of her child, and laughter broke free once more, a grotesque reminder of her failure. "Join us, Sarah, forever." The shadows pressed in, desperate to reclaim their prize, to feed on her fear and despair. She gasped, feeling every inch of the terror creeping in. There, a single thought surged within her. She would not let them take her again. But fear clawed at her, begging her to give in. What would she choose now? The laughter echoed louder, shapes twisting into grotesque forms, swirling around her in a malicious dance, each mocking her uncertainty. Was there a way out? Or was this the moment she would lose everything she loved? As the shadows threatened to engulf her once more, Sarah closed her eyes and braced for a decision that may shatter her forever. The darkness constricted, an invisible vice squeezing tighter around Sarah as her breath quickened. She could hear her heart thundering in her ears, offering little comfort against the mocking cacophony of laughter ringing all around her. "Join us, Sarah," the dulcet whispers echoed, sending shivers racing down her spine. The faces of the children loomed closer, their eyes hollow voids, reflecting the very shadows that surrounded them. The air thickened with despair, palpable and wet like a dense fog. Every heartbeat drummed out a frantic rhythm, a cruel reminder that time was slipping through her fingers. "Lily, where are you?" she cried out, but soon her voice fell into a vacuum, swallowed by a darkness that had taken grip on her soul.
Each time she thought of her daughter, a wave of guilt crashed over her, threatening to drown her. She had dragged Lily into this nightmare, her relentless search for answers, objectifying them both as mere chess pieces on a board of darkness. Suddenly, a glimpse, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A shadow split from the writhing mass, darting toward her. "Help us, Mama!" It was Lily, her small hand reaching out, despair plastered across her face. "Lily!" Sarah lunged forward, extending her own hand, her fingers just grazing the warmth of her daughter's before a sharp chill pulsed through her. The shadows tightened their grip, a high-pitched shriek resonating in the air as they recoiled. "No!" Sarah screamed, fighting against the pull of the darkness. "Leave the girl alone," a voice rasped from within the shadows, a sound that echoed with a hidden sorrow but was drowned out by laughter. Around her, the children twisted in a grotesque ballet, their limbs contorting at unnatural angles. They laughed, beckoning her to join, whispering secrets she dared not comprehend, each word wrapping around her like barbed wire. She hesitated, battling her instincts. Should she turn toward their insidious invitation and risk losing herself, or should she fight back, igniting the flickering hope that somehow remained within her heart? "Lily needs you," the sinister voice urged, dripping with malice. "Would you not willingly save her from this world?" In that instant, the shadows surged forward, a torrent of grasping hands, intent on dragging her into the abyss. Panic twisted a knot in Sarah's gut. Despair clawed bitterly at her throat. "Get away!" she shouted, summoning every ounce of strength. Her body shimmered with an unfamiliar heat, a light building within her, an ember sparking defiantly against the encroaching darkness. "That light belongs to us!" shrieked the shadows, recoiling in horror as the glow radiated from her. But it shattered her resolve into ragged pieces. She wasn't strong enough. The laughter swelled again, vibrating through her bones, and she felt herself wavering. Just then, the semblance of a door materialized behind her, framed by flickering light. Could it be a way out? A heartbeat of potential flickered in the middle of the chaos. But as she took a step toward it, shadows lunged forward, laughing manically. Their claws brushed her skin like icy fingers, and she shivered with the realization that this choice could be her last. "Choose now!" the shadows bellowed in unison, their voices a tempest of terror. "Lily needs me!" Sarah gasped, casting one last look at the flickering warmth before plunging forward toward the light. The shadows shrieked with a pitch that made her blood run cold, a heart-stopping drone of fury and despair. Was the light salvation or another trick, a deeper trap waiting to ensnare her?
When she bounded through, the wall of darkness chased her, collapsing the space around her as she fought to cling to consciousness. Would this be the moment she lost everything, or would it lead her to her daughter? As she landed in the void beyond, the question coursed through her. Was this truly the escape she sought, or merely another layer of the nightmare? The world shifted around Sarah, the shadows falling away like a curtain pulled back. She stumbled onto solid ground, but felt the remnants of the darkness clinging to her, like a film of cold sweat on her skin. Ignoring the disorientation, she looked around. A desolate landscape sprawled before her, drenched in a dull gray mist. "Lily!" The name tasted like ash in her mouth, but she screamed it nonetheless, heart racing. The far-off echoes of her call scattered like birds startled from a tree. For a moment, silence blanketed her. It felt insufferably heavy, pressing down on her chest. But then, there it was again, the laughter. It was quieter now, more distant, but unmistakably familiar. Following the sound, Sarah moved forward, every step cautious, her pulse pounding in sync with the rhythmic drumming of rain against an unseen surface. The droplets were like tiny daggers slicing through the air, but even that discomfort was better than the suffocating grip of lurking shadows. The path twisted through the fog, shrouded trees looming like sentinels guarding sinister secrets. An icy wind swirled around her, carrying soft whispers that made her skin crawl. "Don't turn back! Remember the light!" "Leave me alone!" she shouted, pushing past the urge to listen. Were they the spirits of the children? Had she truly escaped, or had she walked deeper into a trap? Just ahead, she spotted movement, a figure stumbling through the mist. Hope flared inside her, but it was snuffed out instantly when she recognized it was not Lily. It was a child, small and frail, their face obscured by shadows. Desperation clawed at her. Could this child lead her to her daughter, or was it another trick? "Help me!" The child's voice was a fragile wisp, cracking like dry wood. "Where's your mother?" Sarah rushed forward, her heart aching for this lost child. "Lost! Can't find her!" With each word, the child's eyes widened in terror. Sarah felt her own fear mirrored back at her, the echoes of a bond she knew too well. Protecting them felt like a duty, yet dread seeped through her pores. She couldn't let the shadows take her again. Then, without warning, a shadow lashed out from the dark like a whip, wrapping around the child's ankles. "No!" Sarah lunged, grabbing the frail arm, trying to pull the child away. But the shadows were relentless, claws gnawing at her wrists. The cold seeped into her bones, curling around her heart. "Help us!" the child screamed, but the laughter returned, roaring like a storm. It twisted inside Sarah's head, drowning out the child's cries, forcing her to question everything. Was this child a victim or a lure? As Sarah wrestled against the pull of darkness, she felt panic rising within her, hot and consuming. "I won't lose you like this!" She managed to break free, throwing herself toward the shadow and snatching the child away. But as they fell back together, the darkness retreated momentarily, revealing a flicker of light in the distance. A faint glow danced, bathing the area in warmth, a beacon of hope, a chance of escape. "Come," she urged the child, but hesitation shadowed their face. "It's not safe." Heart pounding, Sarah glanced back at the shadows growing bolder, moving like ink swirling in water, preparing to strike. "Trust me," she shouted, dragging the child towards the light, the laughter morphing into a frantic chorus. Yet just as she reached for the glow, it flickered, the world trembling with an ominous groan. The child's grip faltered, fingers slippery with fear. "Stay with me, please!" But the child looked back, eyes pleading with a depth of sorrow that ripped through Sarah. What if that flickering light was just another lie? What if it pulled them both into a deeper nightmare? As they stood there, torn between the shadows and the sparking light, a chilling realization settled in Sarah's gut. She was not just fighting for herself, she was fighting for a shattered trust, a love that could slip through her fingers like the very shadows that haunted them. And then, in a breathless heartbeat, the light dimmed, warping the promise of safety into something grotesque. "Choose," the shadows whispered, their voices oozing with malice. Would she step into the light and forsake what was left of her daughter, or would she face the abyss with a hope that flickered just as precariously? In that moment, everything hinged on one desperate choice. The choice weighed heavy on Sarah's heart, a tangible pressure that left her breathless. The shadows loomed closer, their laughter morphing into an unbearable wail. "Join us! Give in!" they sang, coiling around her. Fear gripped her, but deep down a raw instinct burned bright, the instinct to protect. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the darkness, empowered by a mother's love. The child beside her hesitated, eyes darting between fear and trust. "We can fight this together! Follow me!" With a surge of determination, Sarah grasped the child's hand, squeezing tightly. Ignoring the clamoring shadows urging her to surrender, she sprinted towards the flickering light. She could hear the whispers of the darkness pleading for her to stop, to turn back, but she wouldn't let them deter her. Not now. The moment they stepped into the light, warmth enveloped them, washing away the chill that clung to their bones. The shadows recoiled, hissing in disapproval, but Sarah didn't dare look back.
She felt the child's grip tighten around her, a connection that ignited a sea of hope. "Keep moving," she urged, her heart pounding in rhythm with their flight. The light pulsed, illuminating a path ahead, beckoning them towards safety. Every step felt like an act of defiance against the darkness that loomed just out of reach. Then, like a shattering glass, the light grew brighter, exploding around them like a supernova. Sarah squinted, but she felt an irresistible pull, a gravitational force anchoring her to the light. She couldn't stop now. She had to believe this was the escape she'd sought for both of them. As they surged forward, the cacophony of shadows faded, their cries drowned out by the glow. It felt like running through a dream filled with love, laughter, and the promise of safety. And then, there she was, a familiar figure standing amidst the glow, eyes wide with joy. "Lily!" Sarah cried, breaking free from the child's hand and rushing toward the light. The moment she touched her daughter, warmth flooded her soul, saturating her with love that banished the shadows forever. "Mommy!" Lily's little arms wrapped around her, pure joy radiating from the both of them. It was a reunion that felt like sunlight piercing through the storm. Everything melted away. The shadows writhed in agony just beyond the light. The laughter became desperate, tearing across the silence like thunder. They had lost. Sarah held her daughter tightly, every heartbeat echoing her undying love and determination. "Look, Mommy, look!" Lily pointed behind them as the darkness writhed, twisting in fury. The shadows reached out, desperate tendrils clawing at the light, but it repelled them fiercely, forcing them back into the abyss. Sarah's heart swelled as the warmth of her embrace sparkled with a fiercely indomitable glow. They were safe. No more lies, no more masked faces, and no more torment. As the shadows collapsed in on themselves, retreating into the depths like frightened beasts, the world shifted around them again. The edges around the light shimmered, transforming into a peaceful expanse filled with colors she thought she had lost forever. The rain stopped, replaced by soft sunlight warming their faces. "You chose right, Sarah," Lily whispered, her eyes shining like beacons. "You never gave up." And as Sarah looked down at her daughter, a powerful realization washed over her. Love could pierce through the darkest shadows. There would always be a way out, even in the deepest despair. Hand in hand, they stepped out of that radiant light into a new world, their laughter blending with the gentle breeze, free at last from the horrors that had grasped them so tightly. But deep down, Sarah knew she'd always carry the lessons learned, the vulnerability, the fight, the perseverance, because the darkness would always linger, but in the heart of every shadow there was a spark of light waiting to shine. "Let's go home," she said, joy flooding her voice.
And as they walked together, the shadows whispered soft promises of another night, but Sarah turned away from them, knowing she could face anything as long as she held on to the love within her. Together, they ventured toward a brighter future, the echoes of their laughter reverberating against the fading darkness. This moment was theirs, and nothing could take that away. And so, this was the end of one haunting chapter in their lives, but it was just the beginning of a new story, written by the light of their unbreakable bond. But as the sun began to set on the horizon, a soft whisper lingered in the breeze, a reminder that the battle between light and darkness is one that never truly ends. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your love. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel in these ways because true fans understand the importance of keeping the stories alive.